change at offensive coordinator, and step Coach Finley along with Kevin Johns into new roles, working together. Coach Johns to coach our quarterbacks, and Coach Finley and the rest of the staff, Kevin included, putting together game plans, and we'll call it on game days. Incredibly hard decision on many levels, and then 10,000-foot lens. Not so difficult. We're not playing winning football on that side of the ball, and thought a change would be appropriate, and change in leadership, a new voice, a new perspective, a new lens, strategy, game planning, sequencing, all of those things that go along with that position. As I said last night, this is not everything, all the blood doesn't fall at the hands of Coach Luttrell. There's lots of different issues that have been problems for the lack of consistency, lack of offensive output, and but ultimately that goes along with that position. So that'll open it up.
Okay, we'll start the middle here, Billy.
Brent, with the offensive coordinator situation, you're going to have to, of course, the future of the offensive coordinator, when you think about what you're going to do, maybe hiring a new offensive coordinator, how do you balance the remainder of this season with what you're trying to accomplish this year, with weighing what you're going to do with the future of that hiring of that job?
Yeah, there's a lot that you obviously can't do right now, so focus on getting better right now. We need to get better. And, there's you can always plan ahead without getting distracted. So, my main focus right now is getting us prepared for this week, and putting together a good game plan, in all three phases, and giving our players a chance to be successful.
Do you focus on the future at all? Because
you multitask, absolutely. It's a huge priority, and we'll let things take its course.
Ryan?
Yeah, Brent, I want to ask you about Kevin Johns. And what specifically do you feel like he'll add to that quarterback room, that group, that responsibility that maybe hasn't been there or is different from the first 7 weeks?
Well, again, being a quarterback coach and an offensive coordinator, he's got both of those lenses so from fundamentals, game prep, knowing what the quarterback should see, what he shouldn't see. You've got high-level success in regards to where he's been at both coordinating and coaching the quarterbacks. So whether that was at Duke or it's at Memphis, it's at Indiana, and some of the other places, that he's been. And so, he hit the ground running yesterday, and he was like a pig in the mud. And I think that a fresh perspective will, be an opportunity for the quarterbacks to grow and see it from, again, not only a different voice, but a different lens, someone that's been outside of maybe the system that we have currently been running, and again, a fresh approach.
Is he going to be in the booth with Joe John?
We haven't figured that out yet. We'll figure it out this weekend. Yeah, but, he's been able to be down on the sideline for the majority of the season with those guys, and so we're talking through that, as we speak.
Brent, you've said a couple different times, different perspective, fresh perspective, different lens. Since Joe John was involved with game planning before, can you talk us through the thought process to keep him, elevate him, as opposed to maybe doing something totally different?
Yeah, no, it was reported again last night, everything that I said, but as I said last night, Kevin came in here later in the winter in an analyst role, and analysts aren't allowed to coach. So he's doing advanced scouting, not, in the weeds of day-to-day operations and installations and things of that nature. He assisted me with scout team work, and from a leadership standpoint, I could pile a lot on him, but he did a great job in that role. Not until fall camp were analysts allowed to actually have a coaching role, but at that point in time, we'd already been down the road several months. So he continued in the same role. So, he, in regards to the actual game planning piece of it, it's certainly not fair for him to all of a sudden you got to learn a new verbiage and language and how we intimately operate, with this current team, with these players. And so it's all very player focused when it comes to that, and what's fair for them and what he's capable of doing in 4 days. And but they'll all work together. And again, when you have a play caller, ultimately everything goes for him. He makes those decisions on what we are or aren't going to do. And but there'll be a real strong collaboration. Whatever we have been doing hasn't been working. So with a fresh start for everybody, we're hopeful we'll get a little bit better. Mm-hmm.
Very. Yeah, but when you got here, OU is going through a pretty long stretch of tremendous offense.
Mm-hmm.
Defense is down. You've got the defense turned around, but the offense is going down. Is there anything going on with why is it so hard to get them both going at the same time? Is it allocation of resources, whether it's financial, whether it's scholarships, whether it's practice time, what goes on to make it so difficult to get them both going in the same direction?
Well, I think year one we were top 10 in the country in a whole bunch of offensive categories. Is that right?
Well, last year definitely.
Well, I think first year we were top 10 in the country, and then last year we were. So was that, how long have I been here? 2.5 years. And I don't want to sound defensive, but I just don't want to change the what the facts were. We've been an abomination on offense this year. But year one and year two I think we're pretty good, and one of the best in the country. So I got perspective on what did happen, and there's a lot of things you can go down the list, but I think you can have both. And I think a year ago we were pretty good on defense and really good on offense. And year one, not very good on defense and still pretty good on offense. So all with whatever shortcomings we have here. Actually, we were not a very efficient offense our first year, although the final stats would say we were pretty good. But we made tremendous improvement in year two in all the efficiency spaces on both sides of the ball. And that's more of a model of what we're vision for what we're wanting to be on both sides of the ball, where we can truly complement each other and have a chance on any given week to win the game on that side of the ball. And obviously we have fallen short, in that regard, this year. But I don't think it's an allocation of resources. There's again, we know what some of the issues have been, and we've got to be better around the young quarterbacks, and we haven't been. And some of that, again, there's been some injuries, and I think that's a real thing that doesn't allow you to be fully who you are. And we haven't been very good and consistent on the offensive line either.
George?
Yeah, Brent, quarterback situation is always an interesting one in college football. You see guys every year, starters, leave programs and go somewhere else for maybe a fresh starter. Backups go somewhere that they can be a starter. How have you maybe handled the quarterback situation with these two guys, Jackson and Michael? I'm sure both want to be starters here this year and in the future. And how have those guys maybe handled a situation where Jeff is a guy that recruited them both in Oklahoma. He's gone. Now Seth is somebody that coached him, and he's gone. How have they maybe handled this whole, delicate situation?
Yeah, I think they both have been focused on just controlling what they can control and being in the moment here right now, and recognizing the need to be in the moment so that they can be prepared and have a chance to play and be the guy. So, whether or not they have spent any extended amount of time thinking about, the future and things of that nature. I don't know. For me, how have I handled it? I'd just be open and honest and transparent, lots of communication. This is a game of development. This is a game of performance. And, in some ways, those positions and how you coach them and, what the expectations are shouldn't be any different than what you look at any other position. And, but, I think having great self-awareness probably puts them in a good place. Even though there's some discouragement with that when you're not playing as well as or as well as you want to. But young players sometimes play like young guys, and they get better the more they play, the more they're around it, the more they watch it, the more they practice it. And that would be the expectation, with those guys, moving forward. But as far as speculating on their futures and things like that, and just focus on, trying to get better today.
I know you also said that last night that Jackson's going to be started. What went into that decision was just based off Saturday's performance. Then could we see Michael at all?
Yeah, you never know if you can see somebody. I can't predict. You go out there and again, it's 21-0 because you throw, turn the ball over 3 straight possessions again. You'll look at everything. So, what went into it, Jackson stepped in and played pretty well, took care of the football, put one on the ground, recovered it, made a lot of really good decisions in the game, took command right from the get-go, had, again, several drops that would have made the day even better for him, individually. So that's what went into it.
Ryan Chapman.
Right, you mentioned the offensive line. In 1 week, I don't think I was expecting a huge teardown like schematically. But what tweaks, what's realistic improvement you can have from that group week over week? Because it's another really talented defensive front this weekend.
Yeah, and again, I think that's, it's been that, again, whether it's Tennessee or it's Texas or Auburn or South Carolina, there's that too. You're trying to baptize guys, getting them better, but just being better at the fundamentals, becoming more aggressive and physical. Another week of practice and the cohesion and continuity gives guys a chance to improve. You don't reinvent the wheel in a week's period of time. You just get better at the basics, and we got to get a lot better. And but that's where the focus is just making improvement, and again putting guys in a position to help them have some success too.
Yes, left side, James.
You're going to face another really good defensive line at Ole Miss. They spent a lot of resources over there. Talk about that, Matt. You just talked a little bit about the offensive line, but now you're going to have to match up against this front.
Yeah, it's the whole defense, James, and just like again, we've played some really, really good defenses, and I'm not sure if there's been a season where a team has faced this many at Oklahoma, this many good units. That's not an excuse, just what that group of players are dealing with right now, and I think they're number 2 scoring offense or scoring defense in the country, giving up 10 points a game, and so playing really, really well. So very similar to the approach that we've had the last several weeks, not a whole lot different. You go in, you do what you do. You got to do it better. You got to take care of the football. You got to create explosive plays. You got to push the ball down the field. We got to do a lot better job at protecting the quarterback, not allowing as many negative plays, and try to get into a rhythm offensively. And but this would be a great challenge for the guys. They're a tough group to do it, and not many people had success doing that.
Is that the best front you've seen
this week?
Yeah.
They're all good, man. I chuckle only because, if you want me to be real and honest, you just compare this player to that player to this player. And
I was just real impressed with Nolan. So.
Yeah, Nolan Smith is playing. He's the number 1 player in the country coming out of high school, goes to A&M, does fantastic there, and he's picked up. I think he's in his 3rd year, and he's playing like a 3rd year former number 1 player in the country. He's developed. He works hard. He strains. Incredibly disruptive. He can rush the passer. He can play the run. He can cross face against anybody he plays. He can play a 5 technique. He can play an inside at a shade or a 3 technique. there's nothing that he can't do. God willing, he'll be a top 5 pick really soon. But there's also another, 10 guys that line up out there with him. They're all really good players. Again, I think they've got 18 of their 22 starters or transfers. They've done a really nice job of not only, I think it's easy to say you just go find good players and put them together and then you have a super team. It's easier said than done. And so obviously Lane and their staff, they've done a nice job of getting these guys to buy into the culture. And there's a certain level of selflessness that goes along with that. And again, keeping guys hungry and on edge and playing, the ultimate team sport, the way the game needs to be played, as opposed to selfishly trying to go make plays. I'm going to do what I want to do and things of that nature. They've played really disciplined football. And but again, it's the guy, it's Trey Amos, the corner they got from Bama. He's, somebody along with, Paul, the linebacker that was from Arkansas that, is all SEC, great player, Princely from Florida. You can go, on and on and on. I think Trey Harris leads the SEC, leads the country in receiving yards. I think he has 350 more yards than the second best receiver in the SEC. Fantastic player. And that's not talking about Juice Wells and their tight ends or their backs and things of that nature. So Jackson Dart's the only player in the country, active player, that's, rushed for over 1,200 yards in his career and passed for 10,000 plus yards. And he's playing, lights out. So they've got a really good team and don't see any weak links in the chain anywhere. But that's exciting.
Yeah, Brent, just a quick one about Gavin Sawchuk. He's never been listed on the availability report, but his snaps have obviously diminished the last couple of weeks. Is it performance-based, or is there something else going on with him?
On the availability report?
Yeah, Gavin's never been listed on it, but you look at Saturday, and he was never in. Is there something? Is it performance-based, or is there something else?
He strained going into the game. He was healthy. He strained a quad.
And then back-to-back weeks where Troy Everett's been named one of the team captains. What did you see with his leadership when he was going through that injury? How did it amplify his comeback?
Yeah, he's just a natural leader. Certainly can't lead when he's not at practice and in the middle of the grind. It's just you feel like a man without a country when you're that player. And but he's a guy that's an emotional leader. He's an alpha. He brings out the best in guys around him as far as leading. Brings out juice and energy and the toughness that you got to go and practice with. So it's good to have him back.
Jesse?
Brent, obviously, Joe John's had a big impact on the offense all year, but with him now calling plays, maybe what's the balance for him in terms of keeping things simple and having continuity for the players, not reinventing the wheel, plus maybe having his own impact and looking to maybe change things and bring his own perspective.
Yeah, and he's been around a lot of ball. He's got great leadership skills, really effective communicator. He's very involved in every part of our program when it comes to the special teams and offense, and certainly his tight end group. But the balance is, again, putting together the best game plan you can. Certainly you're always considerate of your own position and their involvement and what they can do and can't do. He was a trusted resource before, and again, I know the result isn't what anybody wanted, so it's easy to say, well, that what's he going to do? But he's got great perspective, and he's got a really sharp lens when he understands defense. And, he's got good natural instincts as well, with the game. I think that'll show itself to some degree. And again, we got a really good supporting staff. We got a really good staff. And, again, a year ago, that staff was really good. And that's right now we're in the middle of a year where we're not performing well. So everybody is under the microscope. But, we do have a good support system and a process and how we put together, again, daily practice and daily game plan, installation, and the different situationals and things of that nature. And so he'll play a major part in that, but so will other staff members, as well. It'll be a collective effort. Mm-hmm.
Right. With 29 sacks allowed through 7 games, I know they're not all on the offensive line. You said last night a lot of them have been. Just from your perspective, what makes it so difficult to try to rebuild an offensive line through the transfer portal these days?
I don't know. You don't have I think probably the number one thing, in a perfect world, you have high school guys that you develop, on that side of the ball. That group, the best performing groups typically are ones that have spent a lot of time together. And, if you went back and looked at all the guys that, we've had over the last several years there, we've had a lot of turnover. We've had several guys that chose to declare for the draft early. I think my first year here, I think there was, I think we lost all the starters. I think I was hired in December. I think we had 4 guys that could have come back. They all left, and so we had to start over that year in 22, and we had some backups that were here, but and so every year I think we've lost both starting tackles after 22 and after 23, both starting tackles left, and so we haven't had a lot of guys that have been here for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and that you're going to see that. It's hard for a high school kid to come in and be an impact guy at that position at any school. And but ideally, you have, that position built up of, the foundation of high school guys that have been in the program and developed over the course of time. But we've missed on some guys. Several years ago, we didn't have this amazing group of backups that were ready when guys left. And that's, you want to build that if you're building it, appropriately. And so everything matters, when you're building that, and guys that, can be a great teammate, be a good player, but also be, go to class, make good decisions off the field, socially, and then be willing to put in the work to develop. And that's been a group that we've fallen short in regards to the transfer guys, that they've only been here for a few months. And so when you got to rely on the majority of those guys, you can lack some continuity in the chemistry, the things that we're talking about, that enable you to be able to, execute at a high, consistent level. But at the end of the day, we do have some guys that have been here. We got to help them play better. They got to play better. We got to play tougher. We got to be more physical. We got to be better in pass pro. Our fundamentals. We're not winning a lot of matchups. We're losing a lot of matchups. There's not a margin for error with the guys that we're playing. But we got to help them do things that they can do. So everything affects them, run game, running back play, quarterback play, receiver play, all that stuff affects them too. And so again, right now we're not very good at any spot, let alone offensive line.
Brent, I think you talked about it a little bit after the game, but seeing what Jacob Jordan did on Saturday, how much do you hope that kind of performance, encourages other guys who maybe haven't been playing as much to kind of value their opportunity here in the home stretch? Yeah, again, I spoke about this last night. I think it's a great example. We talked about it in the team meeting, a guy that just has been working, showing up every day, getting his reps, not getting the opportunity in game, but not letting that affect him, his practice habits, his attitude, his mindset, his effort. It's because of all those things that allowed him, when called upon, that he was ready. And so that was the message to guys is to stay ready, keep working, keep developing, keep believing in yourself, trust the process, all of those things. He's a living, breathing example of what that looks like. And taking all the things that you do in practice and taking it to the game day. And sometimes how a guy practices, sometimes they get in the game and they don't
they're not mindful of all those things, the fundamentals, the details, whether it's in route running or it's in protection or it's in, effort. Some guys have paralysis by analysis when they get out there on game day, and that's, you don't want that for any player at any position. It's not going to help you win.
Hi, Mason. Let's go to Curtis.
Yeah, Brent, you mentioned the tight end position earlier. How do you evaluate that group this year, and how much can they help going forward with their improvement protecting the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a more productive group than what we had a year ago. Some of the things they've done a nice job, and there's some other areas that we got to do a lot better. We got to block better, and at every level of football, you have to be able to block the guys that line up in front of you, whether at every single position. On defense, you got to whoop the guy that's in front of you. And if you're losing more of those battles, everybody's going to feel that effect. And so some of it's positioning, some of it's technique, some of it's physicality, some of it's strength. Some of it's not a good matchup. And so find the ways. I think offensively you can find ways to not ask them to do things that they're not capable of doing. That's part of coaching. And sometimes maybe it's a collaboration. They're supposed to get some help if they're not able to do it on their own. And so I think all of those things are important to your point. And, but we are more productive at that group. It's allowed us to do some more things. At the end of the day, we haven't been productive on offense or played winning football on offense, as I said before. So, I'm gonna recognize progress that has been made, but also at the same time knowing that we got to be a heck of a lot better. And I don't think there's a position group, on the offensive side of the ball that is immune to the lens of being critical, and we have to improve. We got to get better exponentially every single position. But there have been some signs. Maybe it's an individual player. Maybe it's individual part of the game of being a position player that has been good, but not good enough. And so I don't want to sit here and promote something that's not there. At the end of the day, there's a body of work. What's my grade, coach? And everything you add up, we are not where we want to be there yet. But again, I believe in the guys, understand, again, I think part of the coaching is understanding your weaknesses, understanding yourself, having a great self-awareness, and then protecting your weaknesses, enhancing your strengths, and all the while you relentlessly focus on getting better at the places that you're not very strong. And so you attack that every day. It's like I said, the improvement process typically is never happens as fast as you want. And most, for the naked eye, it's not apparent. And but when you're around it every day, you can see some of the incremental improvement. But at the end of the day, does that help you have a winning performance? And right now, it hasn't.
Okay, let's go second row, middle, Daniel.
Yeah, Brent, you talked about the injured receivers last night. I want to ask you about Jaden Gibson. Just where is he at his rehab, and do you also expect him back next season?
Yeah, he's done remarkably well. His mom's been up here last several weeks. She's been fantastic. I say that she's. I find out from the doctors, but I also find out through Kimberly, and his spirit is great. And Jaden's a really emotional guy, and he puts everything into this game. He's doing the same in his rehab. He loves his team. He loves his teammates. He's out of practice every day. He's, as I said, he's ahead of his benchmarks as far as flexibility and in some of the rehab processes as well. It's a long recovery process, but he's doing really well. And, he's on his way to getting back out there next year.
John Hoover.
Yeah, Brent, one of the things that makes college football so unique is that you can be up to your neck in the day-to-day grind, but you cannot have tunnel vision. You have to keep an eye on the future. You have to keep recruiting, maintain those relationships with those guys. So, in the scope of where you're at right now with this offense struggling, like it has, the change at the top that you had to make.
Yeah.
What are you hearing? First of all, what is your message to the recruits, the 2025 class, 26s? And then what are you hearing back from them? What kind of questions or concerns are they expressing to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, number one, before I take a commitment, I want to know why they're committing. If they say, well, it's just because of this position coach and that's it, and that's the end of the conversation, you know, there's going to be a need for more conversation. I want guys that commit to the University of Oklahoma to enrich their lives, what this name brand, this university means to them, their families. At the end of the day, you know, I'm the head coach, and it's important that the vision of the program and the decision-making process comes from an alignment, you know, with the vision of the program and what they want for themselves through the program. Holistically speaking, there is an offense and a defense and a special teams, a piece of it that's really important for all of these guys, and it can be very emotional. You know, that goes without saying. But at the end of the day, they have to trust in myself as a leader, and certainly rest of the staff that's here right now. You continue to work on those relationships, but this isn't all of a sudden now you're talking to the guys, you know, every day. You know, you work diligently over the last several months, for some guys several years, at developing really strong relationships that are not going to be life-changing decisions, aren't going to flip the script, you know, in the middle of a storm. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the vision is for us to have a high-scoring, explosive, diverse offense that recruits are going to want to play for. And there's a body of work here at the University of Oklahoma. You know, we can have the best coaches, you know, on the planet here at coaching and mentoring and developing, and we'll have that. So, you know, that's really been the message for the recruits and certainly their families. And at the end of the day, I think guys that do commit here, there's a you know, a holistic approach on the field, off the field, systematically. Scheme again is important, and knowing that, you know, we're not going to go to the triple option, you know, with you know, moving forward. So we're going to have something that where we can attack people. We got to be able to throw the ball and to have good balance in what we do from an offensive standpoint, and be aggressive in our approach, both in scheme, tempo, structure, things of that nature, things that are good for the game. But so that's, none of those things are going to change.
As things have gone sideways a little bit, do you hear negative recruiting?
I mean, I'm not naive. Even when you're doing well, people are always trying to chip away. I mean, we're in this conference that we're in, because we're not recruiting against anybody but the best in college football, the best coaches, the best universities, the best systems, the best development. And so it was that way, you know, 2 months ago, and it's not going to change. And, you know, you got to recruit every day, and you got to work on those relationships every day. And every once in a while you have a recruit that gets influenced by that. I'd rather know now than later. You know, if you think the kitchen's hot now, just hold on. And I mean it, like within your career, it's going to be a lot worse than now. You know, that's not adversity. And so, you know, but I haven't heard of or sensed any panic. I think there's a trust. There's an expectation and a trust. And again, like I said, there's not a whole lot of people that are surprised. People understand, families understand that this is part of the business as well. And so when you do make those life-changing decisions, it goes beyond any one particular coach, you know, most of the time. Mm-hmm.
A couple more next to John. Let's go to Joe.
Yeah, Brent, Jeff Levy, Seth, Joe John, all of them obviously played here, latter two being promoted from within. When you look for your next permanent offensive coordinator hire, do you want someone with OU ties, or are you willing to kind of expand that to
to outsiders.
Yeah, I could care less about OU ties. That doesn't matter to me at all. I've hired some people that have had OU ties, and I've hired people that had never been to the state of Oklahoma before.
You sort of, with any position coach, do you kind of keep like a short list of names if you coach, or play against guys that maybe you consider should there come openings?
Yeah, I'm aware of what's going on in college football when it comes to people that are having success.
Come on, Joe. Cliff.
Yeah, so, Coach, there's times when it's really easy to tell that a change needs to be made at quarterback, like last week. But, looking at the overall picture of the quarterback position, how difficult is it to judge that position when the offensive line is struggling the way it is, when you have that many injuries at the receiver spot, when you have guys dropping passes, when, body work is kind of disjointed because you got one guy in and you got another guy in. How difficult does that make the process, especially because you got to make not just short-term but long-term decisions on these guys?
Yeah, man, I think, to your point, there are a lot of things that you have to look at. You have to have a broad perspective. There's a bottom line, a result perspective, and then there's looking at all the extenuating circumstances. Again, young players play like young players most of the time, so you look at what are they complemented with. But they're, over time, what can be a byproduct of the inconsistencies around them is start, lacking in trust, and that's an important piece too. And so everything goes into it, and it's not a mathematical thing. At the end of the day, there's a decision making process that is a little easier that you do judge, and then taking care of the football things that win games for you or can lose games for you. So those are the two top priorities, but you always have those things, the other surrounding supporting cast and their performance. That's always a lens that you have to be really mindful of too.
Okay, last one, middle back, Chris.
Yeah, Coach, who's been running the quarterback meetings this fall?
It's been a combination of Coach Luttrell. Jack is also Jack Luttrell has been Lowry rather has been a part of that as well. And then Kevin Johns is on the office there, and they meet in the office staff room. They're all in there. But the two voices have been Jack and Seth.
And now Kevin will take over that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks, Brent.